Hi everyone, I'm Anthony and I'm Head of Education for IdHAIR UK. So today in this video we're going to create some gloss formulas. So the first formula we're going to create is a really soft, creamy blonde, and we're going to mix soft grey and pearl together. The second formula we're going to create is a really soft, dusty lilac using rose and lavender. And then the third formula we're going to create is a really nice, clean, crisp white blonde by mixing together silver and ice. So the first formula we're going to create is the really soft, creamy blonde, and we're going to use soft grey and pearl. So we're going to mix them in equal parts. Again, always making sure that you use scales to measure. And we're going to mix it as if we're using it as a toner, so I'm going to mix it in a 1:2 ratio with gloss activator. So one of my favourite things about gloss is the consistency. With it being a liquid, once you've mixed the activator in, it turns into a gel, so it's really easy to apply. And it spreads really far as well, so you don't need to use a lot of product. So I'm going to apply this to a level 10 swatch. Also, like we've mentioned in the previous videos, it is really important to use the dedicated gloss activator. The reason why is all of the nourishing properties and shine comes from the activator. So it has a product in there called squalene, which is really moisturising and good for the hair. So we're going to let that process for 20 minutes and then come back and check the results. So the second formula we're going to create is our really soft, dusty lilac, and we're going to do this by mixing lavender with rose. So I'm going to mix 2 parts rose to 1 part lavender. The reason that I'm only doing 1 part lavender is because it's slightly darker than rose. So lavender sits on a level 8, while rose sits on a level 9. So it's a little bit more pigmented, so I don't want it to overpower the rose. And we're going to mix this 1 to 1.5. And again, just applying it to a level 10 swatch, and then we're going to process it for the full 20 minutes. I always like to try and process gloss for the full development time. I know it's quite tempting to cut the development time when you're worried about overtoning or developing it too much, but if that's the case and you're working on really porous hair, the best advice I can give is to mix clear into it. What that'll do is slow the deposit down a little bit. Obviously, the more you cut your development time, it's not going to last as long. So you want maximum longevity out of the colour, so the best thing to do is add clear in to slow it down. So we'll let that process for 20 minutes and then we'll come back and check on the results. So the third shade that we're going to create is a shade that I get asked for all the time, which is a nice, clean, crisp white blonde. So we're going to mix together silver and ice, and we're going to mix them together in equal parts. And then we're going to mix it in a 1:2 ratio with a dedicated gloss activator. So we're going to apply it to a level 10 swatch. I think one of the things that's the most important when we're trying to create a really clean blonde, a lot of people tend to just go in with a blue ash, so they would just apply silver on its own. But you've got to think, when you're applying it to a clean level 10 or even a level 9, you're working with a natural with the underlying pigment on that level, which is yellow. So if you go straight in with silver, which is essentially 911, you've got a lot of blue in there. And going back to basics, we know blue and yellow make green, so sometimes you can get a little bit of a khaki blonde. But by mixing in some ice, which is a 9-8, so it's violet, it means that violet's going to work in the background and knock out that yellow to give you a really true, clean, crisp white without any sort of green hues to it. So again, we'll let that process for the full development time of 20 minutes, and then we're going to come back and check all the results of the 3 swatches. Welcome back everybody. We've took the colour off our swatches. So the first one that we created was our creamy blonde, and we mixed together ice and pearl, and it's created this lovely soft vanilla blonde. The second swatch that we created was our dusty lilac, and we mixed together rose with lavender. So it was 2 parts rose to 1 part lavender. And the last one we created was a really clean, crisp blonde, and this was mixing together equal parts of ice and silver. I hope you like them and enjoy recreating them and using the swatches in the salon.